Hello, friends, enemies, kind mothers. Whoa, we're going 60 miles an hour. It's not a dead end zone. It's not a going 90 miles an hour in a dead end zone. The dead end. No, it's a song. Going 90 miles an hour in a dead end. Something like that. I forget. Oh, friends, enemies, kind mothers. It's Friday. Thank God and the Buddhas. Mm. And thank me. I brought you Friday. Friday what? Friday, November 20th, 2020. Whoa, there's a lot of 20s there. Uh, so we have a meeting right now, or coming up in a few minutes. I got a head start. And it looks like nobody's showing up to the meeting this time around. Well, hopefully Luis Del Pino will be any moment now. All he has to do is tap on a phone number that I gave him and then enter the meeting ID, which is 407-486-8642, which is my phone number. So he's going to call Zoom number in New York, a New York area code number, which gets him into Zoom, and he'll have a voice prompting him to enter the Zoom ID. And then we will begin the meeting. And we have a topic. Let's talk about narcissism. Let's talk about Echo and Narcissus. Well, that's where the word narcissism came from. Narcissist, from Narcissus, Greek mythology. If I recall, it's a story about a man named Narcissus who was in love with himself and looked at himself in the mirror of a pond, and he fell in love with his image, and he fell in and drowned. Now, but before that, he was also being seen by Echo, another figure. It's a female figure that fell in love with the image of Narcissus. So not only was Narcissus in love with the image of Narcissus, but Echo was in love with the image of Narcissus. So, and also whatever Narcissus said, Echo would repeat it. So that's why she was called Echo, because she would echo everything. No, actually, I'm wrong. The word echo was probably derived from her name, Echo. So when we echo something, we repeat it, right? Right. Or when we talk to Amazon Echo, we say, Alexa, play this song for me on Spotify. And so Amazon Echo will follow your dictates to the letter if it can understand what you meant, if you have correct pronunciation, or if you express it in the proper way. And maybe there's a variety of ways that you can express it thanks to artificial intelligence, the algorithms, or the way it's been programmed to handle what you say. Sometimes it doesn't understand what you say. So that's a problem. It's a problem that narcissists have, right? They only want it their way. They don't want it your way, right? Nah, I don't know. What is a narcissist anyway? Is it simply a selfish person? Aren't we all kind of selfish? So then, is there degrees of narcissism, of selfishness? So the more selfish you are, the more uh, narcissist you might be. But narcissist personality disorder, I don't have the definition with me, but it sounds like it's more than just being selfish. It's also being manipulative and being able to um, manipulate others to get them to do what you want. But isn't that part of the scheme of things of business life or life in general, that you want to do something that will get others to do what you want? Isn't that built into the golden rule that is famous? I don't know where it's found, if it's even found in the Bible. Well, it has the word unto. Sounds kind of biblical. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's a problem with that. Well, so you assume that what you want them to do unto you is what they would like. So you're 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 suggesting that whatever you like, others will like. Do unto others. Maybe I'm expressing it wrong, but doesn't it go something like that? Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. So I would want them to stroke me in a certain way. So should I go around stroking others in the same way? What if it doesn't work? So there's a selfish expectation in that dictum, that an assumption that says, oh, they're gonna like whatever you like. So I'm gonna put some music on right now, and I am assuming that you will like it. Let's see. Let's put on. One is the loneliest number. The loneliest number that you ever do. Two can be better. One is the loneliest number since the number one. Oh. What do you think about that? What about no? No! No is the saddest experience you'll ever know. No. Yes, it's the saddest experience you'll ever know. One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. It's the loneliest number. It's just no good anymore since you went away. Now I spend my time just making rhymes of yesterday. What is the loneliest number? What is the loneliest number? Who is the loneliest number that you have? the loneliest number that you ever do. So, so I made an assumption that you would enjoy that. And that's part of that dictum of do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. So I would want them to put that music on because I like that music. So why don't they do that? Hey, maybe if I put it on, then they'll like it. So okay, I'll do that. But no, not everyone likes that music or that song or even that style of music or even that genre 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 of music. How come it's spelled Genre, genre, or genre? It's pronounced genre. I can't even pronounce it. So already it's 4:09. The meeting actually starts at 4:15. So I hope Luis Del Pino calls in. It's flip over to my desktop on my phone, and then go over here and send them a text message. Let's see, find it. I'm waiting. I'm gonna put we're waiting on Luis. We're 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 waiting on Luis Del Pino to join us. We're waiting on Luis Del Pino to join us. Okay, now I'm gonna flip back to Zoom so they can see me. Whoa. Do not try this at home. Zoom and drive. Do not zoom and drive. Zooming and driving is bad for your health, your safety. It's risky. You can have an accident. So I better put on my seatbelt. So actually where I'm going to is to the office to pick up a check. Where do I get my mask? But let's see, 4:11. So we got 4 minutes before the session starts. And let's see what else is new. So let's go over what's been happening. Well, it's November 20th, and the election was on November 3rd. It was pretty intense what was going on, and now that it's over, uh, maybe 80% of the people have accepted that Joe Biden won over Donald Trump. And maybe there's a bunch that's hoping that it's not true and that Trump can overcome the count by claiming that there's been some kind of funny business going on, and so sent his lawyers, including Rudy Giuliani, to do something, to make a lot of noise, to suggest that something was done incorrectly. So we need to investigate and maybe have certain states recount the votes or something like that, or have the state Supreme Court, those states, particular states, look at anomalies or fishy business going on. I think some of the states that were put in that situation include Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, maybe even Michigan. It sounds like Donald Trump is now heading over to Michigan with his lawyers or something, or making a lot of fuss in Michigan because maybe it didn't go so well in Pennsylvania and in Georgia. I'm not sure about Georgia, but officially, or at least the Associated Press and others have proclaimed that yes, that Georgia went for Biden, and therefore Biden has won. I'm not sure which one came in as the closest in the race. Was it Pennsylvania or Georgia? Like the gap and percentage-wise. I recall Pennsylvania was at one time ahead for Trump by something incredible, like 700,000 or even more, 900,000. But it started turning towards Biden when the mail-in votes, ballots were being counted in heavily populated areas that mostly went towards Biden. And that happened in Georgia too, particularly with the counties in Atlanta metropolitan area. So, and Arizona for the longest time was, wow, they should go to Biden. But it was kind of, no, we should call it yet. And then it started changing towards Trump, and it got real close. I'm not sure in the end where it went towards. If they even finished counting, maybe they had to stop. And I don't know if they got to restart counting. I don't know. But anyway, the number of votes, electoral votes, delegate votes needed to win was 270, and the last I saw, it was Biden at 306, and now let's say that Pennsylvania were to go back to Trump, then that's 306 minus 20. That's 286. That would still give him a win. So he'd have to get Pennsylvania and Georgia, maybe. some others. Pennsylvania, Georgia, and even Arizona, maybe. Just take a look at it again. So yeah, I got into it pretty much the last few days and during the election day, looking at the maps and the predictions and the polls and this and that and what different news outlets were saying. It varied. Uh, so so now what happens next? Well, hmm, is there going to be a civil war or what? Well, I guess I haven't paid attention to any like demonstrations or protests for the side of the Trump uh, those in favor of Trump winning. I don't know. I haven't paid attention to what they were doing or making fuss. I may have seen stories on the internet saying that they were protesting somewhere, some some protests here and there. But I get my news from a variety of sources. I sometimes get it from, I guess I'm getting it mostly from the internet in different forms, and sometimes get it off the cable TV. Like my sister has mostly been keeping it on CNN and rarely going to others. And also to some channels that are in Spanish. And then on the internet, yeah, I guess I've been kind of biased towards channels like TYT, the Young Turks, and what others? And just the big headlines just um, that end up being going to big newspapers like the New York Times or the Washington Post, or yeah, I realize they've become biased towards I guess you could call them liberal leaning. There's some more, even more, and then I get idea of what the other side is, like the conservative, the Republicans are thinking, because I have friends that are putting things towards that side, and so I sometimes watch what they post, look at what they post, and sometimes I respond to their posts just to have fun and see how they react to what I post. Yeah, sometimes they react to my posts. So I grab, hey, this is an interesting article. So I grab a little paragraph out of it, copy it into my clipboard, and then I share the article on Facebook on my newsfeed, and then and paste the paragraph or whatever into the post. So every now and then I get some responses. Some like it and add their thoughts. Some don't like it and add their thoughts. Then mostly it's been rather quiet in terms of how much response I get. So maybe the people are just too busy right now to even respond to what I post. Maybe they skim through it, or maybe they don't have time to read anymore, or they're tired of it. They're worn out. So maybe yeah, because my posts tend to require much reading. So well, it's 4:23, and Luis Del Pino hasn't responded. That sucks. So the meeting was a failure. Maybe he'll show up. Mm. Went away. So the meeting is still going. I guess I'll keep it going for maybe until 5. Maybe I should keep it until 5:30 and see if somebody shows up. I parked at where I work, but due to the lockdown, I don't really come to work that much. So I sort of work remotely, troubleshooting every now and then. Okay, so I came to the office. This is where the office is in this area of town. This is kind of near Maitland or west of Maitland, Florida, north of Orlando is near OBT, Orange Blossom Trail, and near Edgewater, and near Sarcona Ocoee Road. And near this big uh, tower that you can see from far away. I guess that's where they make cement. So there's the office. I better put my mask on. Mm. And so I came here to pick up uh, some checks. My checks. Is it okay if I plug this in? Hmm. Oh man, this thing's messed up.
Luis Del Pino.
Join the meeting.
Hello. Hello.
Hear you.
Heido?
Yes,
How are you doing?
great. And you?
Doing good,
Thanks.
doing good. I'm a little bit late, but I hope I'm not too late.
Thanks for joining us.
Excellent. Who is in attendance?
Well, there's there's Hyro, and then there's Hyro, and then there's
And Louis.
Hyro.
So there's 4 people. Incredible.
I cloned myself. Oh, and there's Vladimir. Say hello, Vladimir.
Hi, how are you, Jairo? You good?
Yeah, that's Vladimir. He's at the office. I dropped by to say hello. I'm at the office. I'm gonna pick up some things here. Oh, Luisana. Yeah. Me fui. ¿Pudiste trabajar mejor? Uy. Yes, I dropped by to pick something up at the office. So, now leave. So, so are you driving home?
I am driving home, Jairo. Happy Friday, TGIF.
Oh, wow.
Are you recording this?
Wow. Look at that. Well, you can't see it, but I can, and I'll record it. Well, let's see if I can see. Yes. Look, there's a rainbow in the sky.
I know.
It's
I
a
just saw
double
it. And
rainbow.
I was coming out of the office. I saw it.
Wow. That's a pretty rainbow.
Very nice. Yes, very big. So it's just you and I. Although you invited, how many people did you invite?
Outside of it, but it doesn't go very high.
How close are you?
Oh, I invited. He's I guess doing.
I can hear you. I cannot hear you very well. I think it's your buds. You still there? Yeah, I thought so. I think it's your buds. You can't hear me. I can't hear you.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh,
I hear
there
you.
you are.
I hear you now. Much better.
And I hear you. Excellent.
So you invited how many people?
I invited. I called up David Norton.
David Norton.
Invited him, but he couldn't make it. Hello.
Yes. How? Who else did you invite? Like.
And I announced it at Buddhism for Happiness and at Central Florida Philosophers meetup, but nobody signed up for it. And I don't know if
All right. Well, what was the subject?
On Facebook.
What was the subject of the?
I put, let's talk about narcissism, and
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes.
And the story about Narcissus and Echo.
Yes.
That's where we the word narcissist from.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people are not very interested in that, obviously.
Well, maybe it's the time. Maybe it's a little too early. Maybe they're also go.
Yeah, maybe they're also commuting. God knows. Do people know how to call into Zoom typically? Do they know this trick that I'm using?
But I gave them instructions how to.
Call in, right? If necessary, if they're commuting.
That they can call in.
Yeah, this is great because, you know, if you're driving around, you don't have Wi-Fi and you don't have like a lot of data in your personal plan. This works like a charm.
Yes. And it sounds like you're here. The voice
That's
sounds
good.
like you're talking right here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what else? Well, how was your week?
Oh wow. Hmm. Let's see. Wow, I've had some amazing meetups through
Tell me about it.
52 living ideas. Well, the
Yeah, I
last
know
one
you
was
recommended. Yeah, you
with
recommended that one to me.
with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't there live, but we were supposed to listen to Jordan Peterson's talks on mapping of meaning or something. The meaning of maps? No, maps of meaning.
Huh?
Have you heard of that lecture series called
No,
Maps of Meaning?
no.
And actually, he's very young in those videos. It's like his lectures in college, and they edit them down to 30 minutes each, and there's about at
Nice.
least at least 5, maybe more. Maybe it looks like there's 10 of them, and it covers the book Maps of Meaning, and it's kind of like what's his name, the mythology expert, Joseph Campbell.
Campbell. Yeah,
Yeah,
Joseph Campbell. Yeah.
it's kind of like that, covering all kinds of stories that he goes into, that he's trying to maybe he's trying to come up with formulating something, a moral a moral structure and meaning for humans to guide their lives, and in this time of scientism, no, of giving up on religion, on God, and maybe man needs to replace it with something that's secular but yet based on mythologies or something. Well, I don't know if that's what he planned on doing.
What I would say is, don't believe in God. Know that you are God.
Then, when you know that you are God, what will that do for you?
Aha! Now we're talking. So, first of all, we need to define the very idea, right? When I say God, what am I talking about? And when I say you are God, what am I talking about? So should we go into it?
But isn't that narcissistic to think that one is God, because God is almighty, and if one becomes like God, then one is able to manipulate others. Oh,
So, you're
oh,
mixing all the things. You're using all the things that we need to define: almighty, narcissistic, and manipulating. So, you're expanding the dictionary here so much that now it's impossible to have a conversation about the first thing we were going to talk about, which is to define the idea that we have of God. And once we define God, you're going to see that it's impossible for that God that I have in mind to manipulate anything or anybody. And hence he cannot be more narcissistic. You know. So we're talking about the different God.
Definition? Is
Well,
there an
I'm just trying
ultimate
to find
definition?
Yeah. No, all I'm trying to do, like Joel always says, let's talk and see if we can have an agreement on the very word God. You know, let's see if when we say God, we both think about the same thing, the same specs. You know what I mean? Same color, same dimensions, same specifications. We're trying to specify what we mean by God, you and I, and see if we can agree. Oh, okay. If we're talking about that, then we can say, okay, we can really know what we are talking about, number one. Number two, can we say that we are God? Because if we don't define God, if we don't specify first what we mean by God, I doubt very much that we're going to agree on saying that, yeah, we are God. So we can go into this exercise and go, okay, let's specify God and see if we can agree on the specifications.
And then what happens?
Then we can, once we define specifically, then we can talk about it. What are we going to do with God? Are we God? You know, is there any importance to those specifications? What are the ramifications of specifying God, you know, with the specifications that we just gave it, that word? It, you know, it clears the way for a very deep conversation.
And then
because right now,
and then what happens when you have specified God or defined it or set boundaries on it? Then what's the aim of the exercise? To prove that
then you can you can see what you do with it. How does it affect your life, your worldview, the things you think and the things you do? How do you relate to that word, God, and what do you and how you understand it, and how does that change the things you do and think? You know, your morality, your ethics, your actions, your dreams, your fears, etc. You see what I mean?
but where did the word God mm, who first mentioned it? Was it me? Yeah. And how did I use it? Or can by the context determine what I meant by God? And
Well, the reason why the word God came up, I think you mentioned it first, because you were mentioning belief and myth, right? And you know, immediately when we talk about myth and beliefs or faith, we're talking about God and gods, right? Stuff that we never see. You know, the ideas that we have about, you know. So I said, well, no. You know, I said, don't believe in God. Know, which is a difference, know that you are God. So we have to define the word God, we have to define the word know, and we have to define the word be.
we have to define the word know as in K-N-O-W.
Yeah, K-N-O-W.
And the word be,
Yeah.
that's what part of philosophy is that? Being,
Ontology.
existence,
Ontology.
ontology.
Yeah.
And know is epistemology. And
So we're trying to see if we mix epistemology and ontology, and we call that God. Wow, it's like, wait a minute. So God is a combination of two sciences. One is direct experiencing, which is to be, and the other one to know, which is epistemology. So how can I say that that I am and I know and I am together God? What do I mean by that? So that's why it's very important to define and specify, give specifications, a very, very complete description. Is it big, small? Does it have any color? You know, is it a person? Is it a being? Is it a thing? Is it a power? Is it an energy? Is it like, a source, et cetera, et cetera? We need to define what we talk about. And, that's a good way to start. If you can define God, you're on the right direction there.
Oh, but you said B is ontology, but you
That's
said
right.
something about experience. Does being lead to experience, or is experience knowing?
So
Like,
you are asking extremely good questions.
Can one be without knowing, or can one be without experiencing?
That's right. A tree is, but does a tree know that it is a tree? That's a very good question. But we cannot answer that really, because we don't know. We don't feel the tree, and the tree doesn't feel us. But we can make assumptions or hypothesize. If to experience, we also specify it as, the human experience. How do we compare the human experience and the tree experience? Or the mosquito experience? Or the virus experience? Or the atom experience? Or the photon experience? So we have to make hypotheses because, we don't know. I know your experience. I know your experience, Jairo, because I make a lot of hypotheses and assumptions. You're like me, you're a human being, and you pretty much have the same DNA, you work the same, you have the same organs, you sound like me, and I sound like you. We use the same words, and we have the same reactions to things, pretty much. If we drop a rock on our foot, we react the same way. So I can experience you indirectly because you look very much like me. You act very much like me. But I don't really know your experience. I'm making hypothesis about it, that your experience is very close to mine, very similar. I know that a mosquito sees and it feels. I don't know. I think they can smell CO2 or CO, something like that. They have very keen sense of temperatures and movement. So they may have an edge on us in the way they experience reality. But at the same time, they're not that smart, in the sense that they come to our homes and they get smashed against the wall. They don't seem to communicate between them. Like if a mosquito comes to my place and I try to smash it and it goes away, I would think it would tell all the other mosquitoes. It's like, hey guys, don't go into those structures.
State or we're dreaming, or what happens when we've been knocked out for surgery and we're supposedly unconscious. Is there being there? Is there experience there? Maybe when we get out of it, we forget everything that we experienced during that time, and so we think that nothing happened.
Are we unconscious? Is our experiencing deleted to zero? Do we have is there a spectrum for experiencing from 0 to 100? 0 being pretty much the string. That's as much as, as close to 0 as possible. And then the 100% experiencing would be God. Reality experiencing itself 100%.
There's no learning or no mindfulness during surgery.
Right.
If the anesthesia is powerful enough.
Yeah. So those are all good questions.
Maybe Stuart Hameroff, he's an anesthesiologist. He's studying consciousness with what's his name? With a physicist.
Yeah. So those are very good questions, and we could start piecing down things like that, one after the other, after the other, after the other. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a theory, like the scientists, like a theory of everything. So I have a theory of everything that is based on science, from what I hear, how things work, from the atom to us, because we are the most, in terms of consciousness. In terms of consciousness, I think you and I can agree that we are the most complex consciousness that we know of. So if we measure consciousness from the human perspective, we are the most conscious organismic process that we know of in the universe. Right?
We are the most complex. Why are we the most complex? Is it because of our language skills?
Because of everything. Because of everything. I think processing data. I think we are the most complex data processing consciousness.
We're skillful at processing symbols.
Yeah, we are skillful at making up stuff, creating. Mathematics is very complex. Who came up with all that? We did. The human consciousness. So if we kind of talk about consciousness, experiencing, and we combine the ontology, which is being, and epistemology, which is knowing, right? And we combine the two of them, and we go, okay, so we're going to call that consciousness, being and knowing that one is being. Then you combine that ontological and epistemological enchilada, and now you are describing a human consciousness as we know it, in a spectrum, because each human consciousness is what we're talking about, being and knowing that one is being, and knowing that one is knowing. All that ball of wax, we call it human consciousness, which apparently is the most complex data processing organismic process that we know in the universe. Now we can make assumptions, and we can say, well, we're not the only evolved and complex consciousnesses out there in the universe, so there may be even more complex data processing processes out there. So, you know, we can take where we are, we can make it, you know, more and more and more complex. And not only in terms of data processing, but in creativity, in abstract thinking, in subtle thinking, all these things that we have a hard time describing, like nirvana, the peak experiences, self-reflection, deep states of consciousness, the seven jhanas, et cetera, et cetera. And the mind stepping out of itself, like they describe in the Kula Sunyata Sutra, you know, where the man goes, oh, okay, yeah, I'm nothing but a process that is impermanent, stressful, and is not really an entity. You know, that's the kind of stuff that we can talk about in trying to describe consciousness. And we're only talking about experiencing and knowing. We're not even talking about just being, in the sense, like, you know, as an aspect of reality, you know, as opposed to non-being.
Wait a minute. I have to
Yep.
Converse with a teller. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Where were we?
So we are talking about, right now we're talking about consciousness, and we're specifying it, we're giving it specs as data processing. You know, we're very much comparing a human consciousness with just like a very smart computer that can do many more things than a computer can. But, you know, we understand computers, so we can make that parallel to human consciousness. So, you know, the big difference between a computer and human consciousness is, you know, we can feel, we can emote, meaning that we can feel pain, and we can feel pain. We would have to describe to a computer what it is to feel pain, and it's a qualia that it's going to take a lot of computing there to describe, you know, how we feel about certain things, how we feel about the color red, how we feel about hunger, how we feel about justice or injustice. You know what I mean? So we are very complex. Human beings, we are very complex. And so we can describe human consciousness in terms of extremely complex and creative, self-reflective, data processing, organismic thing, like a dynamic. And that data processing is a bridge, you know, a self-reflecting bridge back to what is pure being, which we can call that reality as it is. So there we can establish that reality, which simply is there, it's there. Reality is just there. And out of it, every so often, emerges or coalesces or arises a complex data processing dynamic. And that's how reality, which simply is now able to look at itself and go, oh, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at this and that and that and that. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I'm trying to
So on this point, there's this big question about this complex data processing.
They're going to set it up, but there's a balance on your card for $5.12. Okay?
Oh, you're talking to somebody.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead.
Are you talking to somebody?
I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically here at this point, we are looking at what is reality as it is, the whole enchilada. So we can also break that down and, you know, and specify it. Is it big? Is it very big? Is it biggest? Is it infinite? Did it have a beginning? Did it have an end? Blah, 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 blah. And so we are now looking in very, very big terms. We're looking at what is, which is everything and nothing at the same time, and how from it emerges or coalesces with a certain degree of probability a certain data processing. So it's definitely, as you can see right now, conscience is a self-reflecting data processing dynamic that arises from what is. So you already, you know, in these terms, we're already looking at that any consciousness is reality looking at itself with a certain degree of clarity. And when I say clarity, you would say complexity also. You know, because the clearer you go, the more complex the data processing becomes. You still following me?
Mm-hmm.
So any questions or comments so far?
So, where, what were you trying to do? Define consciousness, or to show
Right
where it
now,
occurs?
right now, I'm trying to use a language that sets the tone for the investigation of all these things that we have a hard time defining and specifying, like reality, consciousness, God, if we get to that. Because when we get to that, I'm going to tell you that God is a nickname for reality as it is. God is a nickname that people have come up with in trying to define and understand infinity, eternity, which are dimensions of reality, of what is.
Okay.
And getting close to God and following the advice of God and the rules of God is trying to understand the psychology of consciousness and how reality looks at itself and try to make sense of itself. That's where I'm going with this.
Oh, when you said the psychology of, I thought you were going to say the psychology of reality, but you
Of course,
you said the
of course.
psychology of consciousness.
Yeah, but you know, the consciousness and reality are the same thing. It depends on how you look at it, the perspective from which, you know. So it's the same thing. The psychology of reality is the psychology of consciousness. But you have to kind of fine tune what you're talking about, because can you say that reality has a psychology? Well, reality as a whole is transcendent of consciousness. As a matter of fact, I propose that reality, which is what is, does not know itself but through consciousness. So, you know, to whom does the psychology belong to? To the what is or what is thinking? which is also thinking about what is because it arises from what is. So you see, when you start applying a non-dual perspective on what you're talking about, because God is non-dual too, you have to be somehow able to have a 10-dimensional way of looking at things. Because when you look at things from one angle, from one dimension, they look different, but it's the same thing. So you use words, and you got to be careful. What am I applying the word to? What is this quality being applied to? Or what dimension of what I'm talking about is it applied to? Because, you know, can we say that the psychology of reality? We're pushing it. If we say the psychology of consciousness, we have to say, well, which consciousness? Heido's consciousness or Lewis' consciousness? So we're starting to put labels on things or concepts that all belong to the same one thing, which is reality as it is.
Oh, I lost voice of Luis for about 5 seconds.
Do
Maybe
you want me to repeat that?
You were driving through a low
Signal.
low signal area.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to
It
get
went
dicey very soon.
Quiet. It went quiet for 5 seconds.
So when did you miss? When did I go quiet? What was I talking about?
Yes. So you were talking about that we have to be careful about the words that we're using
And be conscious of what dimension we are applying to, you know, of the one thing we're talking about.
Well,
Like talking about the psychology of reality, the psychology of consciousness, the psychology of Heido's consciousness, the psychology of Lewis's consciousness, etc., etc. But we're all talking about the same thing because there's only one thing. And the one thing that there is reality as it is. So we got to be cautious because we could say that, yeah, this is the psychology of reality, but it's not really applicable to all of reality. You see where I'm going with this?
mm-mm.
So,
what's not really applicable?
well, talking about the psychology of reality. Because the psychology only applies to consciousness. But of course, consciousness, as we understand it, is Heido's consciousness, Lewis's consciousness. So that's where the psychology comes in. Yes, it is the psychology of reality because consciousness belongs to reality, and Heido belongs to reality, and Lewis belongs to reality. But when we talk about psychology, we are obviously talking about individual consciousness, right? How each consciousness deals with itself and with the environment and with reality. So we're always talking about things that apply at different levels, but they all go to the same one thing, which is reality. So that's why we have to be careful the words that we use and why we apply them to.
Mm.
What things? if we can talk about things. We can talk about dimensions, you know. I don't know if you're getting anything out of this, but I think it's interesting. If I ask you, what are you getting out of this? What are you processing anything out of this that you might find interesting or practical or advantageous?
Things come up in my consciousness, and when you said reality is doesn't know itself until there is consciousness
Arising from it, yes.
exploring reality.
Yeah, in a
Then
sense, yes.
reality knows itself and exists, because you suggested that being is involves experiencing. So
That's right.
the reality won't be until there is consciousness for it to know that it
Oh,
exists,
yeah, well, it
perhaps.
the idea of being is not there if there's no consciousness, but reality can be there without any knowledge about it.
So
You know,
a being can be without experience
knowing.
of it
Yes,
beingness,
yes, correct,
of it experience
correct.
of knowing, or once it knows itself, then it is experiencing, or can a being be experiencing something outside of itself, and then it would be considered to be, to exist, no, or
Yeah,
to
but
know.
there's no outside of
No.
yourself. What's out? What's out there? Because there is no outside of reality. Everything that happens is in the same reality, the same one reality. Although it feels
So
like,
there's
it comes outside of it, like I am looking at reality, here I am, and then I'm looking at reality. But that's the mistake. That's the delusion of the mind. That's precisely the problem. That we think
so
that
the
I'm looking at
mind.
reality, when in
So
reality, it's reality looking at itself.
so the mind is dimensionally, is it has no boundary. It's boundless for each individual. So all the minds are overlapping, and
In a
that
sense,
makes
yes.
it so that they there's no inside the mind and no outside the mind.
That's
It
right.
just encompasses all the universe. Each
That's
mind,
right. That is correct. That is correct.
mind overlaps and includes all the universe, except that by way of consciousness, the mind is able to perceive what's out there, but it's not really out there, it's in there,
That's right. That's right.
in reality.
It's all, and that's why they call it Maya, the Hindus, because it's only one thing, but it looks like many. But it's one thing. The tree in front of me is me. Is me, in essence. Although it looks like it's something else, but it is me. I'm looking at myself. So there's no dimensionality. You are absolutely right. There's only an appearance of dimensionality.
And that could be called Dvaita Vedanta, non-duality.
Yeah, Advaita. Yes, not two. That's what it is. Advaita is not two.
And yet somehow there is individualness happening,
An appearance of individualness. Yes.
and then there is one individual looking at through the senses. At the same time, another individual is looking at through their senses, and they're comparing and taking notes through conversation meditation
Yes.
every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. on Wake Up and Think Clearly. I shamelessly plugging it. And
There you go.
but the
It's a good thing you
the,
gave the pitch, the end pitch, because I'm going to get through a rough patch here, so I'm going to start getting cut off. So maybe we should stop on a good note, and you
yes,
should publish this because it's well
and
worth it.
we'll contemplate on it further. And the topic at hand was narcissism. So the reality is in a way narcissistic because it's in love with itself. It's look reflecting on the pond and sees his image and falls in love with his image.
That's the way to put it. That's the way to put it.
In. So we will stop here and continue next Friday and even tomorrow morning.
Yes. Excellent.
Maybe next Friday more people will join us.
Great work, Jairo. Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you for joining. Until
Alrighty.
next time. Until tomorrow morning.
See you tomorrow morning. Bye.
See you. Bye.